And very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, the National Insurance Scheme belongs to Barbadians, and there is no better way to invest its funds than in the development of the island's people. This is the view of Prime Minister Fendel Stewart. He was speaking in Parliament on the National Insurance and Social Security Amendment Bill. Mr. Stewart says there will always be debate about what level of exposure to government the fund should have. He's given the assurance, however, that government would not allow the fund to fail.
What better place to invest those funds than here in Barbados? If the fund had to get into trouble at any time, it has to turn to the government of Barbados for its restoration. And if the government of Barbados, when other funds get into trouble that have nothing to do with the government, springs into action to make sure that the public interests are not undermined, a fortiori, the government will, in the event that the National Insurance Fund had to get into any kind of trouble, have to spring into action to look after the public interest.
Mr. Stewart also notes that for years the fund has provided a lifeline for Barbadians through pension, sickness, unemployment and other benefits. He also noted in recent times benefits were adjusted to further assist people who became unemployed.
This government has had occasion to take the decision to extend the benefit period for the unemployed from 26 weeks to 40 weeks at a time when nobody knew how long the crisis would last, and at a time when nobody knew what the real depth of the crisis was. And this government took that decision, as in fact we took the decision to relieve employers of their obligation to service the scheme during the time when they were having pressure placed on their inventories as a result of the crisis which we are talking about.
The statutory corporations and all other government entities that owe the National Insurance Scheme have been ordered to pay up. That debt, according to Finance Minister Chris Sinclair, now stands at just over 250 million Barbados dollars. He says the entities have also been put on notice that once cleared, contributions are not allowed to fall back into arrears. Mr. Sinclair was speaking in the House of Assembly as he piloted the National Insurance and Social Security Amendment Bill through the chamber.
I've given instructions that we clean up the existing arrears now that we know who and how much is owed and by whom, that we do both cash and paper, but that going forward from 1st of April this financial year, that there be no deliberate delinquency, and if any agency is having a problem, that should be notified immediately to the Division of Finance.
Mr. Sinclair says the latest actuarial report shows government has managed to reduce some of its debt to the scheme through a mixture of cash payments and converting part into government paper. He has defended this method, saying it is not the first time it has been used and it has worked.
We will secure sufficient resources to pay a substantial more portion of that in cash, because of course the NIS is variably then reinvested in government anyway, so it helps, it pays us to pay them. But that where and when paper is given, that one of the things we have to ensure, and I gave that instruction to the Permanent Secretary and to the Solicitor and to the Accountant General, that starting from this financial year, all contributions to the National Insurance Scheme must be paid on time and in full.
The Finance Minister also revealed that those who owe money to the NIS may very well have more time to get up to date with their contributions. He says the NIS amnesty program has done so well, the scheme wants to ask for an extension on the program. insensitive government directive to self-employed people to pay the arrears owed to the NIS at this time. MP for St. George South, Dwight Sutherland, says many business owners are struggling to keep their doors open and food on their tables at home.
It is like fishing in a dry pond with bait. You will catch no fish. And the saying goes, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, only Jesus can do such, turn water into wine. It is like the Honorable Member for St. James Central said, it is like getting blood out of stone. So you're asking these self-employed persons to pay a national insurance contribution when they have been hit by major austerity measures by this government.
Of the estimated 20,000 self-employed people in Barbados, only 3,500 are paying contributions to the NIS. Tourism Minister Richard Seeley says this is something which government must look at and change as soon as possible.
Many of these people are well paid in their chosen endeavors. We're talking tailors and bodywork men and people in, people self-employed in various fields of endeavor, and they work for, they're handsomely remunerated, and therefore there's no reason why they shouldn't participate in the fund.
The issues confronting the National Insurance Scheme are by no means minor. That assertion comes from opposition Member of Parliament Kerry Simmons. Speaking in Parliament this evening, Mr. Simmons said despite claims by the government, the fund is still viable. Its last actuarial report says the NIS is likely to go broke by 2032.
So, Mr. Speaker, so when once you have come to the House and you're armed with the relevant statistical data, and you are in a position, Mr. Speaker, sir, to analyze the data, it then asks you, or you don't have to ask you, it demands of you that you have to challenge the position taken by the government side when they would seek to have us believe that all is well.
In other news now, amid concerns about the impact of bands pulling out of Grand Kadooment, the National Cultural Foundation remains upbeat as this year's jump up is shaping up to be one of the biggest in 15 years. We hear more from Kishmar Sinjis.
Grand Kadooment registrations are up, the highest in about 15 years. This is welcome news for the National Cultural Foundation. The announcement came during the press launch for Grand Kadooment 2017 at Republic Bank in Warrens. The launch saw a parade of costume dancers, stilt walkers, shaggy bears and a green monkey, led by the Tut Band. CEO Cranston Brown reiterated that bands leaving the festival was nothing new.
A band may simply not be able to meet their expected target and sometimes have to make unfortunate decisions to withdraw. But we are in the crop over season, and getting close to that season that some refer to as the silly season. So we can expect the controversies and so on. In an analysis of the registrations from 2014 to 2017, we have seen a 37.5% increase in the number of bands, with a slight increase year on year from 24 in 2014 to 33 this year.
Mr. Brown says Grand Kadooment is international and helps sell Barbados. His vision for the future, the cultivation of our own Bajan mass.
And this is a challenge I would like to throw out to Barbadian designers. I'm aware of the usual excuse used about market forces driving the type of costumes and the type of designs. But I would like to see a move to designs that are distinctively Barbadian. There's no questioning the importance of Republic Bank Grand Kadooment to this festival. And indeed, the organization's financial injection of confidence in this Grand Kadooment product, which has even now spurred an interest from other sponsors.
There was also an increase in the number of revelers for the period 2014 to 2017. Republic Bank has showed its commitment to Grand Kadooment, handing over a check for $85,000. General Manager, Retail Banking Sharon Zephyrin says their sponsorship of the festival is part of their corporate social responsibility program.
We believe and know that it is our responsibility to not only build better societies, but to preserve and enrich the cultures in our societies that we serve. Through our sponsorship of Grand Kadooment, we are therefore not only sponsoring mass, but are assisting in the development of the cultural industries, as Grand Kadooment encompasses every aspect of our culture.
Make it safe, drive to arrive, and have an enjoyable season. Kishmar St-Just, CBC News.
Thanks very much, Kishmar. Well, coming up, a new wave of crime overtaking the region. We'll have that report and more in just a moment.
Don't let your data experience slow you down. Step up to Digicel, Barbados' fastest 4G network, more than twice as fast as the slow network. Get more with Digicel. Digicel, the fastest 4G network in Barbados. Dial *153# to sign up to Digicel today.
We start with a yes. But when life takes unexpected turns, you can still say yes to more. The Scotiabank Aero Platinum MasterCard credit card gives you points with every purchase that you can use to travel to anywhere. Plus, with just 20,000 Scotia points, you can say yes to destinations. With Scotiabank Aero Platinum MasterCard credit card, it's easier to say yes to everything. Apply today.
On Friday, July 14th, it's endless possibilities at the First Citizens Pan Fusion, featuring the multi-talented Dane Gulson from Trinidad and the uncut sounds of the Ziggy Walker Azucar Orchestra. Join us as Nicholas Branco and friends salute Adrian Boo-Husbands in a musical tribute, taking you back to the days of the Chimborazo and the Culture Train. First time in Barbados, it's going to be track versus steel, a musical clash, when DJ Lil Rick goes up against the Azucar Orchestra. Then party on the dance floor at the Fantasy After Party with DJ Lil Rick spinning the music of the season. On Friday, July 14th at 8 p.m., the tranquil grounds of Alara Court will transform with musical magic. Early bird general tickets, $50 to relax on the grounds. Priority seating, $75. Regular tickets, $60 and $85 respectively. Or kick back in an all-inclusive lounge for $230. The First Citizens Pan Fusion, endless possibilities where everyone parties like royalty.
When the crowds descend on Bushy Park for the big Soca Royale competitions, we will be there. When the social commentators in Kaiso face off for the Pickety Crop finals, we will be there. CBC, capturing it and sharing it all with you on pay-per-view via MCTV or web stream on www.cropover.cbc.bb. CBC, your link to the festival.
Government has been given 2 days to approve the union's request for a 50% cut to the National Social Responsibility Levy. Failure to comply could result in strike action by 4 of the country's major unions. Sharika Griffith has more.
Hundreds of workers turned up at Queen's Park for the union-organized Walk for Relief. At about 11:45, heads of the Barbados Workers Union, the Barbados Union of Teachers, the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, and the National Union of Public Workers led their members from Queen's Park into the city. While the members proceeded into Independence Square, the 4 union leaders approached Parliament to deliver letters with their demands to Prime Minister Frendal Stewart, Opposition Leader Mia Motley, and independent MPs Owen Arthur and Dr. Maria Agard. However, Arthur and Dr. Agard were not present, and their letters were left at a reception. The Prime Minister's letter was also left at the front desk after his offer to speak with just one of the union leaders was declined. Opposition Leader Mia Motley then invited the 4 union heads into her chambers for brief talks.
We may not always agree on everything, but we must always agree to talk.
Yes. Exactly.
And we must always agree to treat each other with respect. And this Parliament is over 378 years old, and we celebrate its existence not because people started it, when there was no rights for people. We celebrate its existence today because it has been a tool of enfranchisement for ordinary people in this country.
Yes. In a joint union meeting after the exchange, NUPW President Akani McDowell revealed that it was initially agreed government would have 5 days to respond. However, the time has now been set at 2 days.
Reduce it to 48 hours. We will give them 2 days to respond to our requests. And if they don't respond favorably, what will we do? What will we do?
The unions will now await a response from government before proceeding with industrial action. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Sharika. Well, the number of Barbadians combining more than one illegal drug for recreational use is increasing. The trend is also referred to as polysubstance abuse and is one of the findings of the just-released 2015 Barbados Drug Information Network report.
The increase in polysubstance abuse has been reported at several treatment centres across the island. In 2015, 78.7% of the patients at the psychiatric hospital were treated for polysubstance abuse. This represents a 30.5% increase since 2011.
We talked about the combination of drugs, polydrug use, and what we're talking about, mainly marijuana, cocaine. There was no breakdown between powder cocaine and crack cocaine. What we received from the psychiatric hospital referred to cocaine, alcohol, and cigarettes.
This worrying trend has implications for treatment of drug users.
The question is, and this is a question for some of the treatment specialists, is to whether you can isolate the treatment of a person who's addicted to marijuana, or isolate the drug relating to alcohol or cocaine, treat them separately, or is it better to look at those triggers pertaining and the psychological and social issues pertaining to why a person may use drugs in the first place?
The report also shows marijuana as a drug of choice for young people.
In 2015, 186 students were admitted to the Edna Nichols Center, and 19%, so just under 1/5, they were found to have tested positive for marijuana use or had trace amounts of the drug within their system. When we looked at the profile of persons who were testing positive, we found that males accounted for the majority of persons. And this is more or less in line with what we were seeing in our secondary school survey, which showed that marijuana use tended to be more of a male phenomenon among our secondary school students. With regards to age, 3/4 roughly were between the ages of 14 and 15 years.
This is the 5th report released by the Barbados Drug Information Network. It is a framework used by Barbados to collect and disseminate drug-related information to stakeholders involved in drug education, treatment, rehabilitation, and law enforcement. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Thanks, Rianne. And we're hearing that a new wave of criminal activity is increasing across the globe, and Barbados is taking early steps to prevent it from having a major effect on the country. Kareem Smith tells us how.
Tourism officials remain focused on combating threats to national security, and they've been getting help from the United States Department of Diplomatic Security and the American Chamber of Commerce through the U.S. Embassy here in Barbados. Human trafficking, ATM skimming, cyber attacks on businesses and identifying fraudulent documents are among the most serious. Along with the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, the U.S. entity sponsored a workshop for local tourism stakeholders entitled Crime That Affects the Tourism Industry. U.S. Ambassador to Barbados Linda Tagliatella says the issues are all trending across the globe, especially in the United States. She believes with a growing number of people passing through Barbados annually, the country is a prime target for cyber attacks and human trafficking.
It becomes important that people learn what is possible out there, and to be able to come up with solutions that will be able to resolve some of those issues so that it is not dangerous here and that people feel comfortable, that they can go to ATM machines or they can use their credit cards in various stores, that they don't feel like they're going to be somehow victims of crime.
And CEO of the BHTA, Rudy Grant, says the workshop is timely not just for tourism, but for the general safety of the country.
It impacts on our efficiency and effectiveness in the operation of our businesses. It impacts on the productivity of our businesses as well. And if it is difficult to engage in business, or there are any elements that in a negative way impact on business, then that as well could also be a deterrent for investment in an area which is really needed.
According to the U.S. ambassador, the United States is confident that Barbados and the Caribbean remain safe for its citizens. However, she believes there is much more room for improvement. Kareem Smith, CBC News.
Well, when we come back, we'll see what's happening with our regional neighbors, including concerns in Guyana over a recent bank robbery.
I have diabetes, and every decision I make is important. I choose Glucerna to maintain a healthy nutrition. I drink it and recommend it to my patients.
Glucerna with Carb Steady is designed for people with diabetes, helps minimize blood sugar spikes, and it's delicious. Glucerna, your good decision of the day.
How does Omega XL reduce inflammation?
Omega XL is very effective at controlling pain associated with inflammation.
The studies show great results time and time again for people with joint pain.
If you walk around with pain, it's creating damage. Your blood vessels, your kidneys, possibly your brain.
Fight back. Get rid of pain and inflammation with Omega XL.
Get your Omega XL today. Live long, stay strong with Omega XL.
Looking for the best stage of the festival? It's the CBC Festival Stage, where the stars are sure to appear.
Yes, I get a lot of crap. Listen, there are a lot of people that are recording that shouldn't be doing it. They should be sweeping the road, as far as I'm concerned.
So don't get on that because the whole of Barbados accept go down, then all of a sudden that go down, it cannot be bashment, so it got to cross over into the main circuit. But that sample condemn rhythm from Jamaica, no, but your criteria, that make it bashment circle.
I am saying that when you look at the music over the years, it was never given an identity.
Watch Festival Stage Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays live on CBC TV 8 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Festival Stage is repeated on Mondays and Wednesdays at 9:03 p.m. and Fridays at 10:03 p.m.
In Guyana, policymakers have expressed disappointment over the recent revelation that junior police officers were involved in a plot to rob a city bank. As a result, young people applying to the Guyana Police Force are likely to face more intense scrutiny. We get more in this report.
What are your thoughts on the two officers who were implicated in the bank robbery at Republic Bank?
Well, it comes as disappointing news, very disappointing news. And though the force's efforts have been to eradicate, in a sense, this rogue element from it, we still have persons who remain there.
That was Minister of Public Security Kemraj Ramchitan. He spoke to media operatives at the weekend while expressing that recent revelations has placed the force in an awkward situation, especially with efforts ongoing to rebuild public trust in the police. He said moving forward, there will be changes.
It's going to be a difficult thing, always going to be a difficult thing to know that your police force still have an element or two that are doing the very rotten things of associating with masterminds for bank robberies. But we have to work on it. It's always going to be a work in progress because the human mind, you know, just like the intellectual author, the fellow who went China and all of that and managed to try at least to pull this thing off.
Minister Ramchitan further noted that with recent developments in the case, policymakers and law enforcement agents are now left with no other choice but to dig deeper into the character of persons who apply to become a police officer.
And over in Dominica, the president of one of the unions negotiating for salary and non-salary benefits says they're not pleased with government's latest offer.
On Friday, 7th July, the Dominica Association of Teachers, DAT, received a letter from the Chief Establishment Officer, Gloria Joseph, regarding the ongoing round of negotiations for the 2015-2018 triennium. Celia Nicholas, who heads the DAT, says the offer for the first year under review is not acceptable to the association.
In her letter, she did mention that the first thing is that impose a salary raise freeze for the year 2015 to 2016. Now, we had not accepted that in our submission. We said we are not in a position to accept a wage freeze for 2015 to 2016. So, since we just got the letter on Friday, we need to discuss it. I mean, if there's going to be any wage freeze for 2015 to 2016, then there has to be a significant trade-off, very significant trade-off for that year.
According to Nicholas, the offer being made for the second year is vague and needs clarification from the government negotiating team.
Then the second year, public officers who retired in 2015 will receive one-off payment equivalent to 1 month's salary. To us, this is very vague. We need to know which month, because in the case of teachers, within an academic year, because of the status of the teacher, that teacher's salary may change 3 times.
We'll give you a look into the world of sports in just a moment, but before we get to that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Before the arrival of a hurricane, ensure that you have the contact numbers and addresses of your service providers. For example, carpenters, masons, electricians, and plumbers. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.